in this position, again, just notice the temperature of the floor. And notice how easy or difficult it is for you to settle. And now bring attention to breath once you've got your body in position, and the breath coming in and also down. So there's a little bit of added effort towards an awareness of breath, and that breath that comes in and also moves down into the belly. So here you have the proprioceptive feedback of the floor. And in this position, as you settle, allow the hip to come further out to the side. So the knee may slide a little bit further away from your body. So this is a way of stretching in the hip. And we'll prepare in a very specific way for the posture that I showed you that we'll be doing, the Warrior 3. And we'll start with doing something that's a little bit unconventional in a yoga class, but it's soft tissue work or self-massage. And so in this position, with the breath coming in and also down, and your effort in softening the right hip towards the ground and staying broad across the chest, bring your right hand to your right hip. So to your glute and your outer hip. Just palpate around with your thumb or your first few fingers for places that feel tender or dense. And so you're kind of thinking like a massage therapist, or like your hand is your own soft tissue tool, and pressing into the outer hip and into the upper glute specifically. So this is a way of bringing more proprioceptive awareness to this area that first needs to soften before we can activate it. So you're hunting for tension, and when you find a place of tension, you can hold that amount of pressure with your fingertips that feels like you're aware of the tension, but that you can also soften it with your exhale. So if you find a place of tension now, hold your pressure on it and bring your attention to breath again, in and down, and an exhale that softens. And possibly see if there can be a little bit of change in the density or the felt sense of tightness in the tissue under your hands. So this is bringing in your sense of touch, which is another way of starting to cultivate this present moment meditative attention. All you're doing is palpating around the hip, both towards the front of the hip, the side of the hip, and the back of the hip, to find places of tension. And when you find them, allow them to soften as you exhale. Breath in and down. And let's exhale that softens any effort. So you're looking now to, now let's release the soft tissue work and bring your hand out to the side. And now just with the breath on the exhale, really focus on allowing your body to get heavier and heavier. So notice if you're holding weight with your arms, your hands, your shoulders, if you're kind of holding some of the weight of your head with your neck muscles, or if you're holding at the hip, and get super heavy. And feel gravity press you gently into the earth And breathe in and also down. Active on the inhale, see if you can now make a little effort to breathe into the side bodies. So a breath that moves laterally into the side ribs as you inhale, and as you exhale, it softens and you get heavy. Keep this smooth breath going and this kind of sense of heaviness, and slowly switch sides. So your leg comes to the other side and your head turns the other way. And then as quickly as you can, settle again into that heaviness and into the inhale that comes in and down and moves laterally in the side ribs. And your knee is out to the side, also up so that it's out from the hip. Again, aware of temperature. Feel the different temperatures that your body can feel all at once. So notice the temperature at your feet and your hands versus your torso. Notice the temperature of the breath coming in the body and the temperature of the breath moving out of the body. There will be a focus on cueing your somatic experience throughout the class. And this is a way of bringing your attention back to the present moment and out of the thought world. So as your hip settles, you can allow your knee to fall further out to the side. And we'll begin again on this side with the soft tissue work. So bring your left hand to your left hip and palpate around to see if you can soften any places of density or tenderness. So you're hunting for tension and then applying gentle pressure. So the more frequently you do this type of soft tissue release work, the more quickly you'll get response from your tissue, and the more information you'll have about what muscles tend to hold tension. So this gentle palpating gives more proprioceptive awareness to an area of focus of the rest of the class. Last seconds. And then release your hand back up by the head and take a few deep breaths, letting your hip and your whole body be as heavy as possible, getting heavier with every exhale. And now we'll make a focus on your breath and counting your next inhale. So as you begin your inhale, count to feel for the duration of your inhale. And then as you begin your exhale, count the exhale and notice its duration. So this is your natural breath rhythm right now. And so this will set the pace for our first flow. It's a really simple flow. You'll just be switching side to side in the way that you've already done. So as your inhale begins, your head will lift and your knee will lighten. And as you inhale, you'll come to center. Leg will be extended back behind you, head towards the center. And as you exhale, you'll switch sides. Opposite knee comes out, head turns, and you place your head down. So that's one inhale, one exhale. And then as your next inhale comes around, head lifts, and you'll switch sides. So one breath, one movement, side to side. So as you begin this, you may have a certain pace that over the course of the repetitions, you'll refine. So you want your movement and your breath to be as though they're one thing. As your head lifts and your knee lightens, you switch sides. And as your exhale finishes, your head and your knee totally relax. And then as you inhale, head comes to center, legs back behind you. And as you inhale and as you exhale, you come to rest on the other side. Keep moving in this way, mapping the breath and the movement together. So your inhale would be whatever your pace was that I had you count while you were in stillness, and your exhale will be whatever your pace was of the exhale as you counted. So the movement is pretty continuous with some definite pauses. And then once you get the flow of movement and breath together, can you make the movement smoother? So our only activity is this simple movement and breath. So notice if the mind wanders and just bring it back to this action alone. So this is what I mean by a flow or a vinyasa. One breath, one movement at your own pace. So to do this, you don't have to check in with the pace that everyone else is going. You're getting oriented to the pace of your own flow. How long your inhale is to take you to center, and how long your exhale is to bring you to the other side. So this is an easy flow that you can memorize and do. It's great for after work because it stretches the neck and the hip if you've been sitting for a long period of time. And next time you inhale and take both legs behind you, as you exhale, pause and bring the head down in the center. So it can be ideally the forehead, but the chin if the forehead doesn't feel okay down. And here we'll ground the tops of the feet back behind you. So the tops of the feet from the toe edge to the outside edge ground down, and the arms are out wide at your sides like a T. And with the forehead relaxed down, you're thinking of gently pressing the hands down so the chest engages a little bit, and gently pressing the pubic bone towards the floor. So as you're grounding the tops of the feet, you're grounding the pubic bone and lifting the front hip bones. So all of this that I've just mentioned stays in place. And on your next inhale, lift and float only your head, looking up just past the mat. And as you exhale, set your head down. Good. So you're lifting your head into what's more like a ramping position than a full lift to the head to look up. So you're not looking up, you're more so lifting the back of your head towards the ceiling and looking just past the mat. Good. And as you exhale, set the head down. This is your simple flow. Inhale, head lifts. And exhale, head lowers. And this is enlivening and awakening the muscles at the base of the back of the skull that are really key for the posture that we're about to do. So lift until you feel my hand. Good. And tuck your chin towards the center of your throat. Good. So that's the ramp. So lift to that position and back down. Good. Just like that. And check in with the tops of the feet and the pubic bone and ground those down. So the glutes are gently activated here to stabilize the low body. Good. And then once you have that, once you reach the peak position of your head, also begin to lift the shoulders a little bit. So your hands stay down, broad, and the shoulders begin to lift a bit. And you're supporting yourself with the palms, but not pushing down to lift up. Good. And next time you lift and float your head and your shoulders, pause and hold there. Ensure that the chin is towards the center of the throat and it's like there's an extension happening through the back of the crown. Perfect, Sunny. Good. And then from here, lift and float your hands also. Good. And feel all of the activation happening in the back of the neck and the backs of the shoulders. Exhale, lower, head down, hands down. Inhale, lift, head up, hands up. Good. So if the hands out to a T feel too heavy or like they're weighing you down at the shoulders, you can come back to the goalpost position and lift and lower from there. Good. So this is to activate and awaken the area, the back of the neck and the upper shoulders that are going to be critical as we build our warrior. Notice if you can use the tops of the feet grounding down as a support to keep the lower body pretty stable and still, even though you're moving and activating the upper body. Good. And this vinyasa or this flow happens in rhythm with your own breath. Inhale to lift. Peak of your lift happens at the peak of the inhale. Smooth transition to lower, head down, hands down. Keep moving in this way. And so the effort is being refined over each repetition to be only the amount of effort that's required to lift and only in the areas that it's required, in the upper back and shoulders and head with the tops of the feet grounded down actively. Good. Next time you lift with your T position, hold. And hold until you feel the effort move to an area that you're not supposed to be efforting. So say you feel it in your low back or in your left thigh or wherever. That's a sign that the repetition is over and it's time to come down. But you're holding for what feels like the right amount of effort for you, where you're getting fatigued and when you rest, it's like, oh, look, good job. And when you come down, turn your head to one direction and kind of let yourself soften completely. Really good. So stay broad across the shoulders. And now, as though there were a mouth that you could breathe in and out of in the backside of your upper back, breathe into the space that we just activated, the upper back and shoulders. So the inhale comes into the space of the upper back and you're moving that place as much as possible with the breath. So sending life force to that area that we just activated. And I'll invite a particular action of your mouth and tongue. So bring your attention there. Keep breathing in and out of the back of the heart through your nose. The lips are touching and the teeth are slightly parted. The tongue is flat and broad behind the top row of teeth. And as though there were something between the tongue and the top of the mouth, like a hard candy or something that you were tasting, add a gentle vacuum or a sucking action one time and kind of suck the edge of the tongue up and the belly of the tongue gently drops away from the top of the mouth. So this is a particular bandha or containment of the mouth that can help open up the nostrils and is great to do anytime you're practicing yoga. So we'll move now side to side with a flow variation that's right for you. So on the inhale, your head will lift and your shoulders will lift, and you can lift your hands, or you can find whichever variation is right for you. So if it's hands stay down, and then as you come down, switch sides, head turns the opposite direction. Inhale, head lifts, and your upper body activates, and your lower body grounds down. Exhale, you set your head down and turned the other way. And so depending on the repetition, you may notice, oh, my head turned in a second, or you moved too slow to map the movement to breath. So notice, do you tend to move faster than your breath or slower than your breath, or forget you're moving at all? All sorts of things happen from one repetition to the next. As best you can, take the next repetition like you don't already know what's going to happen, like you're feeling for how it's different than the last time you did it. Good. Next time you come to center and turn your head the opposite direction, pause there. Good, and come down. And place your hands wherever they feel comfortable, but that you're broad across the chest. Bring your attention to the tops of the feet and ground the tops of the feet back down. And we'll keep the upper body relaxed and resting. And now on an inhale, you'll keep grounding down through the left foot and lift the right foot. Good. As you exhale, set your right foot down. And as you inhale, lift the left foot. So moving side to side in this way, in rhythm with your breath, lifting one leg and then the other. We'll continue to refine it further by actively pressing down the foot that is not lifting. So you're kind of creating this oppositional action with the other foot, and then mapping the movement to your breath, getting more and more refined with each repetition. As best you can, really feel that as you lift the leg back behind you, the glute is taking that action to lift. So that means the butt. Good. So the lift happens only as high as your hips stay squared to the ground. And keeping the front hip bones lifted and the pubic bone gently grounding down will support the low back even more. So ideally, you wouldn't be feeling any sensation in your low back or mid back from this lift. It's all happening down in the lower body. Good. Next time you lower your left foot, pause and let the heels relax out to the side and your lower body relax. You can even kind of wiggle your heels or shake your hips to really release all the tension from the efforts you've been making. And now we'll combine these two little flows. So heads turn to the right, and palms are either in goalpost or grounded out to the side as a support. But as you inhale, you'll lift the right leg and the head. And as you exhale, you'll you'll inhale and turn the head to the center as you lift the leg. And as you exhale, turn the head the other way, set your leg down. And then same thing, other side. Left leg lifts as you turn and come to center. Exhale, lower to the other side. So now you're mapping this movement to your breath. The same side leg as you're turning towards lifts as you come to center. And as you exhale, it lowers. And keep the action across the chest with the hands grounding down, or lift the hands with each repetition as you choose. And if you find that you need a resting breath in between, take that and really find that heaviness in between reps. Good. Both arms lift with each upper body lift. Good. And then once you get the flow, the movements, it's about refining your attention to pay more and more attention to the inhale being mapped to the movement and the exhale as you come down being complete and your whole body relaxing completely between repetitions. So it advances by getting slower and smoother. Because the next time you'll lift it with the left side, pause and hold. Good. So that takes some syncing up of the lower and the upper body, and then you'll pause in that lifted position and really use the grounded leg to add more support. See if you can get more lift from that grounded leg. Really good. And then at your edge, whenever you feel your form being lost, exhale and come down. Take as many resting breaths as you need before moving to a single hold on the other side. So again, on this side, don't assume you already know how long you can hold. Get curious about finding out how long you can keep all of those engagements, how you can explore using the lower leg for additional support for the lift, keeping the back of the neck long and the chin towards the center of the throat. Good. So we're finding the activations that you'll need inside of your warrior. And whenever you're ready, come down. And again, breathe in and out of the back side of the heart. So really fill the space of the back body as you inhale and let go completely as you exhale. Good. Good work. Bring the arms up overhead and we'll do a leg roll. And we'll repeat this later in the class, so it's good to have that name for what we're about to do. So you'll lift your right leg high enough to clear your left, just like we did, and start crossing it towards the midline. And as you do, your hip will lift up. Keep your upper body down on the ground and relax. As your hip lifts up, keep reaching that leg away and across until your hip lifts all the way up onto your side. Good. So you may have to push a little bit, but ideally not. All that work would be happening with the leg. And then once you get into this big full extension, roll all the way over. So let your leg lead the way to roll you all the way onto your back. Good. So that's a leg roll from belly to back. And now we'll do one from back to belly. So again, lift the right leg high enough to clear the left and cross it over the midline and keep crossing it and keep your upper body relaxed and reaching out of the leg, heavy at the foot, until you roll from back to belly. So this is a great way to get spinal segmentation, especially if you keep your upper body relaxed. Try the same thing now with the left leg. Left leg lifts high enough to cross over the other leg, and the action happens from the glute. Big hip extension as you reach your leg behind you. It's like you're trying to get more space in your hip socket. And keep the upper body relaxed for as long as you can until you flop. You know you've done good if your upper body really kind of flops. And same thing from back to belly. Good, so lead with the leg. Lead with the leg. So your leg is crossing over. Good, you did good. All right, and then one more on either side. Whichever side was hard, use the leg roll to come to your back. Good, so this really helps with hip mobility and is juicy. I hope you do it again sometime other than this class. And scooch to the middle of your mat. It's a technical term, to scooch. You know what to do. So you're on your back at the center of your mat. And extend out through the soles of both feet. So you'll flex the feet towards you and bring the toes to point towards the ceiling. And as you do so, keep the knees soft so the knees don't bend. And as you activate through the feet, the glutes engage. So you'll feel underneath your hips that the bum turns on here as you activate the feet. Good. And then relax that effort and activate that effort. And now relax that effort with your exhale and activate that effort with your inhale. So another flow. Exhale, feet relax, legs relax. Inhale, feet activate, legs activate. Good. Keep moving in this way with your breath. You might notice if your legs tend to lock out, if your knees tend to lock out, that's something you'll need to watch for as we move forward. Good, and activate through the soles of both feet on your next inhale. And your soles of your feet are like you're standing on the floor with them. Good, and now lift the right knee in and up towards your chest and grab the thigh behind the knee and interlace your fingers behind the knee and pull your knee as close into your belly as you can. And extend the left leg out as much as you can. So that opposite leg is adding to the stretch by the sole of the foot and the heel of the foot reaching out. So Darcy, the other way, the heel reaches, not the toe. Good, good, good. Okay, and then from here, you'll hold the action of your foot and knee behind the kneecap. So you're going to straighten your lower leg, so you need freedom at your knee joint. So reach underneath. So your belly and your thigh stay in contact, and your left leg keeps reaching out. On your next inhale, straighten the lower leg that you're holding and keep the belly and thigh in contact. Good, and exhale, bend. Good, so keep refining that with your breath. Inhale, straighten, and exhale, bend. And really hold that belly and thigh in contact. And as you straighten, foot is flexed, but knee doesn't move at all. Good, and bend. And so if you're not sure if you're doing it, look up here. The knee and the thigh stay totally in place, and only the lower leg straightens and unstraightens. And so this is a way to get into the hamstring in a particular way and the whole posterior of the leg in a particular way. So the belly and the thigh staying in contact is your cue for how you're holding with your arms. And now notice whether you have your arms or you're using a strap is good. Can the belly and the thigh stay in contact, and can you use as little effort as possible with your hands? So you're going to the edge of where you can go with your knee not straightening and lifting off the belly. Good, and go to that edge now on your next inhale. And as you exhale, hold. And now on your inhale, as though you could reach through the heel more without moving everything. And as you exhale, soften any over-efforting. Good, so now internally, you're adding to the stretch on your inhale, but you're not moving anymore. And as you exhale, you're softening at the shoulders, the hands, the jaw. Good, so the knee is bent and the belly and the thigh are in contact. And you're straightening through the heel. Good, so notice the position your foot and knee are in here. I'm going to have you bend a little bit more, bring your thigh and belly in contact. Good, and then keep that there, and then straighten here without straightening the leg, and pull your toes towards you. Good, feel how that changes it a little bit. Good. Okay. So this is the same shape as the warrior. So it may be that a slight bend in the knee when you're in the posture is necessary. So taking note of your shape of your leg here, on an exhale, release your hands and straighten the leg towards the ceiling, the sole of the foot moves towards the ceiling, and you're pulling from your toes towards your head to get as much internal stretch as you can, and reaching out the left leg. Good. So feel how much action you can have inside of this, and then soften any effort that's unnecessary to hold the position. So stay in the same shape, but soften over efforting. And then on an exhale, reach up and out until you set the foot down. So reaching the heel down to meet the other heel. And once you do, relax the toes, relax the feet. And just notice the difference side to side in your legs. So that internal picture that you're able to take can show you the effects of the stretch and the benefits of doing this sort of thing. So relax completely, get heavy, a breath that comes in and down, and also fills the space of the backside of the heart. Good. Activate through the soles of the feet on the next inhale, and reach the left leg up, belly and thigh in contact with each other. Gently holding behind the thigh, and then on an inhale, straightening the lower leg, and on an exhale, bending. So knee doesn't move, belly and thigh stay in contact, just the lower leg bend and straighten at the knee. And as you reach the peak, instead of straightening the leg, pull the toes towards you. And reach out of the opposite foot to oppose the stretch even more, and you'll feel big action through the front of the opposite hip. Inhale to straighten, exhale, bends. Good. Last moments, hold. And again, soften any over-efforting in the hands, the shoulders, the face, but add extra effort internally with how you're driving the heel towards the ceiling and pulling the toes towards your face. Inhales in and down, exhales, soften over-efforting. Good. Release the hands and straighten the leg towards the ceiling and pull so that you're now using effort to hold the leg back in the same position that you'll be in the warrior, and just notice the position of your leg. Can it be like you're putting the sole of your foot on the ceiling and then pulling the toes back? And now reach out and bring the opposite leg down. Bring your arms out to a T position at the sides and relax the toes, shake the toes side to side. And now all of that activity will be from the inside. You can bring the palms to face down if that supports you a little bit, or have the palms face up. Either way, keep the upper body as relaxed as possible. Keep an awareness of the front hip bones lifting and the low back staying gently curved. On an inhale, activate through the soles of your feet, just like we have been. And on an exhale, soften any over-efforting. And then on your next inhale, lift the right leg up to come sole of the foot towards the ceiling. And on your exhale, lower. And then on the inhale, lift the opposite leg. Good. So keep moving in this way, and we'll refine it further by really adding emphasis to the leg that's not moving, and reaching out of that leg and having the glute on of that leg to really stabilize and drive the heel down into the ground at the same time as lifting the opposite leg. Good. So heel grounds, and then you gently ground it down to support lifting the other leg. Keep moving in this way. An alternative, if this feels like it's moving you at the core, would be to bend the knee as you bring it up and have the knee over the hip and the shin parallel with the ground. Good. So they can be bent or straight, and it's coming up, knee up over the hip. On an inhale and on an exhale, leg straightens. Really good. And now it gets refined by the movement and the breath being synced deeper and deeper. Try to connect in with the head and bring the chin towards the center of the throat and extend through the back of the crown. Good. And so we're mimicking the shape that we'll make in Warrior 3 here on the ground. So as you lift your leg, feel all the activation that will be required inside of the pose when we flip it. I really feel the heel of the leg that's staying down ground. Good. Next time you lift your right leg, hold it there. And really feel the heel and the head in contact with the ground. And find only the amount of effort necessary to hold the shape. See where you might be adding extra work. Good, and then extend your leg out and switch sides for a hold. Good. So think about your foot that you're looking at is active as though the floor was underneath it. Good, and if it feels like you need to come out, see if you can just bend the knee and without coming all the way out. And really reach through the long leg, effort through the leg that will be up in the air to drive the heel down to turn the glute on. Good, and then extend out and down and relax the feet, shake the toes side to side. Bring your arms overhead and do another one of those leg rolls each way. So one way and then the other way to really bring some space to the hip. Take your time with those, go really slow. In the easiest way possible, come up to standing on your mat. Hello, we're up. Okay, so we'll be reviewing activations in standing first. So yeah, you just right here in the middle. Yeah, I'll be kind of around you. So look down at your feet and lift your toes. And have your feet parallel to one another on the inside edge. And with your toes lifted, really ground the ball of your foot into the earth. And then reach across the ball of the foot to ground the outside edge of your foot into the earth. And feel what that does in the pelvis. And then send weight towards your heels and ground the outside edge of your heel and the inside edge of your heel. Keep a soft bend in the knees. Keep all that action downward of the foot, and then we'll ground just the big toe. So the other toes stay lifted. Good. And then broaden across to ground the pinky toe. So that's an active foot. You'll want to keep those engagements of the foot as we move into more balancing. And the more energy you're sending down towards your foot, the easier the balancing will be. And often this is overlooked in our poses, but the foot and the engagement of the foot is really important. So big toe and as much surface area of the foot is in contact with the ground as possible. So your active foot will look like alive when you look down at it. You'll maybe be able to see the veins and the muscles of the foot engaged. And you want to feel your toes as relaxed as possible with that too. So the big toe is grounded down, but it's not gripping. Good. So lots of patterning in the feet that can be in place, and we're trying to broaden and lengthen the foot, side to side and front to back. Good. And then there's a soft bend in the knee, and the front hip bones are lifted, just like they have been all class. So just like you were gently pushing your pubic bone into the ground, the glutes engage. And then like we're taking an exhale out of the mouth to bring the rib cage directly over the hip bones, the low ribs gently contain back. And this may pull the shoulders forward slightly, but we're opposing that, so bringing the hands to point forward and wrapping the shoulder around the back. So you're bringing the scapula to protract down in the back gently. So the action will take you from a shoulder that's down and forward to one that's aligned with the hip bone and the ear. And so the palms are gently broadened like the feet are, and the arms are lengthening in two directions. And then the last action is at the head. The chin stays towards the center of the throat, and you're extending up through the back of the crown. So all of that is in place, and all those engagements are bandha. There are the containments that we're trying to learn from our yoga practice. So the feet engages the pelvic floor, the rib cage connects the pelvic diaphragm to the breathing diaphragm, and the head action connects the breathing diaphragm to the soft palate. So just feel your feet and feel any over-efforting, and see if you can find that quality of engagement that's, like I talked about, an effortless effort. So hold your eyes in a single point of focus, and remember that mouth position I gave you of tongue flat and broad. And now bring breath in and down. And it starts to feel low, and then it moves into the space of the upper back and shoulders behind the heart. And there may be an urge to look around or to move. See if you can hold all of that contained. So as we begin to move, all of this engagement will stay in place. As a way to help you at first, bring the hand to the low belly and a hand to the chest. The engagement of the upper back stays the same. So you're not letting the shoulders round forward. You're staying broad across the back, and the head stays ramped. Look to me for a second, and we'll move in and out slowly towards the warrior pose that we're peaking at. So shifting the weight to the left foot, I'm taking the right leg back behind me until I start to feel like I'm coming out of balance. Or if my torso and my shoulders break, that's how you know that you're at your edge. So you're going as far as you can go forward and giving at the knee and the hip of the standing leg, not in the torso or the back leg. All of that stays straight and aligned, and your foot is active in the back and pointed towards the ground. So this is that heel that was driving into the ground. And now flow in and out. Come to your edge, and then back to standing. Alternate legs. To your edge, and back to standing. And that flow happens in rhythm with your own breath. So you're finding your edge of balance, you're finding your edge of core capacity, and you're playing with it, right? It could be fun. Watch the very beginning of the movement and make sure that your toe stays pointing towards the ground in the back. So this is a position where your hip stays closed towards the ground. So some of the things that happen is the toes turn out as you're going down. Try to keep that as the guide for how far you can go back. And the hands on the chest and the belly help you feel if you're collapsing forward there. And if you feel yourself rushed, come back to the beginning, take a resting breath, and then resume at your pace with your breath. If you feel like you could go further, but to do so, you can't keep the back leg straight, bend at the knee of the standing leg. Good. So as you start to get the activation more and more, see if you can come more towards torso parallel with the ground. So now we're working towards the full expression of the pose, where your toes pointing down and your torso is as much parallel to the ground as you can. And all of those activations of the head and the shoulders are really in place and kind of guide how far you can go. Good. And come to standing after you're even on both sides and release your arms. And then we'll do a shake and twist, which looks something like this. Right? Where you're just kind of letting all the tension from what you just did go. Telling yourself what a good job you did. Okay. So anytime that you feel fatigued, we'll move back to that flow. Anytime you personally feel fatigued, stop, shake and twist until you're ready to go back and see if you can push your edge again, okay? So flowing in and out and with your own breath side to side again into warrior. And this is a cheap way to get thrills, right? It's not so dangerous, but when you're doing it and you're right there at your edge, it kind of, you feel your balance working really hard. So see if now in this round you can push your edge a little bit. I mean, the worst case scenario is something like that, right? So see if you can push and stay in the form and go a little bit further and play with your edge and where it is right now, okay? Any questions? Okay. And this time, you can stay here at this position if you like the guidance of your hands here and can hold your back. Or to add a little bit more work, you can have the hands out and out to the side. So whichever you like. Good. Right about at this position, your hip starts to open this way. I'll do it this side. Your hip starts to open this way. Rather than opening here, see if you can bend more at the knee as you're bringing this back to get the space to have your leg your hip closed. So the lifted leg is like the heel that was driving into the ground. So you can get a lot more stability from the upper glute than you think. If it feels unstable, see if you can remember foot and activation of foot as a way to search for more stability inside the pose. And if you find that you're coming off balance frequently, just go a little bit less into the posture a few times until you get a little bit more stable. Good. Shake and wiggle, always available. If you feel like a sense of frustration come over you, shake and wiggle. If you feel a little anxiety, shake and wiggle. If you feel a little bit of whatever in between repetitions, let all that go so that you can come fresh to the posture the next time. So we'll have a little bit of time for break, and then the next time you come into the pose, we'll have one hold to your maximum capacity each side. So go to where your edge is. So we've played with that edge quite a bit. Now go to what feels, whatever it is. If this is where you can hold stable and steady at, this is where you do your hold at. If you can play with that edge in here a little bit, then that's fine, but find where you can hold and stay. And stay with the breath that comes in and down and expands the backside of the heart. So search for your stable variation. Beautiful. Good. So find where that edge is, hold to what feels like capacity, and then switch sides. Remember the activations of the back of the head and the upper back. All right, and once you've done one each side, shake and twist and wiggle. You know what to do. Okay, so how does this advance? Repeating it and repeating it and repeating it. Yoga practice and all spiritual practice is a practice of annoying yourself with repetitions until you can't be annoyed anymore, right? So working with those variations that built up along the way build the strength to hold the pose longer, to balance in the pose longer, and to move deeper into the pose. But how it advances is being able to hold more stillness. So yoga and stillness are like one thing. And we kind of have started to think that yoga has to do with more poses, more flows. But really it's the amount of time that you can hold in challenged, active stillness that really is the defining factor of it. So I'm going to walk you through one more pose each time. And we'll try to hold whatever amount of stillness we can each time, and then we'll work our way down to Shavasana. So Remember your feet balanced distance apart. Front hip bones are lifted and glutes are on. Rib cage is contained, and we'll all go with hands out to the side. So really feel your right foot in the ground and keep all of this in line and start to hinge forward. And keep hinging forward as far as you can keep the back toes down and the whole body from crown to your heel in a straight line. And let the bend happen at the knee. And come to whatever your full expression of the pose is today. Keep your gaze, mouth position in place. And so this is our retest. So remember how it felt to be in this pose at the beginning of class versus now. And try, as best you can, to come out before you fall out. So maintain control throughout. Good. Find your feet. Arms out to the side and other side. So again, feeling for the contrast of how it feels to be in this posture from the beginning of class to now. Good. Oh, so beautiful. And again, trying to find that place where you push yourself, but you come out before you fall out with control. Good. And you can bring a hand to your heart and your belly. Take a few deep breaths in. Feel balanced through the front and back of the foot. So allow for any subtle adjustments to happen that bring you back or forward, that feel more like alignment from the inside. Notice your heart rate and breath rate, and really try to get a hold of the exhale and recover as quickly as you can. Right, and we'll move towards Shavasana. So in an easy way, coming onto your back, or you can. So heads towards me on your back. So we're all in the same position. And hug both knees into your chest and bring your chin towards your chest, lift your chin. So curl into a small ball and really squeeze with your arms and push against your knees with your, push against your arms with your knees. So like you're trying to break out of the egg and hold yourself in the egg all at the same time. So feel all that energy and then take a deep inhale and on an exhale, release all of that and come to lying on your back. And as you get settled on the ground, you can shake and wiggle and adjust in any way you need to. And if you find that you need or like props in Shavasana, please get them. But know that there are some benefits to just lying flat without any props. You're kind of getting some gentle stretches just from the positioning. So unless there's pain, see if you can try your Shavasana unsupported or supported by the earth. And your arms are positioned in a way that allows space at the armpits so that you can feel just a little touch of air on the armpits. And your head is positioned where your lowest point possible is what's touching the floor, and your chin is towards the center of the throat. Good. And we'll move through the 5 elements as an introduction to this idea of embodying the elements. As our yoga practice is deeply tied with these concepts of the 5 elements. And just letting the information that I give inside of this practice wash over you. Don't try to hold on to it with your mind. Feel it with your body. So the earth element is connected to the feet, the legs, and the pelvic floor. It's about cultivating the ability to be still. And it's connected to your sense of smell. So as you bring your inhale in and down, feel the feet and legs and also smell consciously. And this is the focus of your attention, sensing through the mind's eye, through feeling your feet and legs, and smelling. Earth. Hold your attention on the pelvis. Next time you inhale in and down, feel the space between the hip bones and the sacrum on the ground. This is connected to the water element and rhythm, or that sense of movement with breath. So feel the rhythm of your breath flowing in and out, and consciously taste. So become aware of your mouth and your mouth position, taking that mouth position I offered earlier and consciously tasting. Let your next inhale fill the pelvic bowl and bring your attention up to the solar plexus. So the abdomen just below the rib cage. This area of the body is connected to the fire element and containment or integration. So that concept of bandha and your sense of sight. So consciously see the backs of the eyelids, as well as direct your attention in and down to see through feeling the area of the abdomen and the way that breath is moving in your torso. So see consciously and connect to this area of the body to gather insight. Next inhale, make a focus effort to complete the inhale and bring your attention to the heart and the lungs. And as you exhale, settle into the space of the heart and the lungs and become aware of your sense of touch. So feel the breath moving in and out of the lungs and consciously sense touch and temperature. Next inhale comes and fills the lungs, and your attention floats up to the throat, the area of the space element, and connect to your sense of hearing, to hear the breath and the sounds of the room at the same time. Stay connected to hearing as your attention floats up to the midbrain, so the area between the eyebrows. Breath still is flowing in and down, and aware of your sense of smell, taste, sight, touch, and hearing all at once. Open to sensing with your whole body and breathing with your whole body. This connection to the five senses is training for your attention to stay in the present moment. And this directing of your senses towards yourself is learning to sense inwardly your own function and your own need. So as you rest here, if an awareness of need comes about, make it conscious so that you can meet it. And we'll move towards coming to a comfortable seated position through rolling to one side, lying on your side, and coming up to seated in a relaxed, comfortable way, whatever feels right to you. And we'll come to a seated cross-legged position. So if you need a blanket or a bolster to lift your hips, here are some. But ideally you'd have a little bit of lift so that you can sit comfortably at attention. So as we move into the next part of the workshop, I'll be doing a little bit more talking again about the 8 limbs. And during that time, it's still a time where you can be training your attention, right? So whichever you want. Okay. So as best you can, see if you can take your senses and, like we did, direct them inward towards feeling yourself here in this position. And then adjust your posture to be stable but comfortable. Okay, that's what the asanas, or what we just practiced, are all about. They're about developing the ability to be relaxed and comfortable in your own meat sack. And so the sensory and the sense perception directed towards yourself is the first step in that. So in our yoga practice, we learn to move inward. Did anybody experience that movement inward into your own self in a different way? Just a nod is fine, or not. And now, as the practice advances, we go from holding our attention on ourselves and being able to feel, maybe I'm feeling a little frustrated that I couldn't do that better. Or I'm feeling a little disappointed in how noisy my knees are, or how far this has gone. Whatever your inner dialogue is, hold it in your awareness, hold your senses in your awareness, and then open that to also include me and my words, so that at the same time, your attention is now split. It's not only inward, it's inward and outward. Okay, so that can look any way that looks for you. So you can still be listening with your eyes closed. You can have your eyes open. You can take some very unofficial pose, okay? You don't have to be sitting like a yogi to be a yogi, right? You're just relaxed and comfortable. And to the best of your ability, maintain this quality of attention during the rest of the lecture. So this quality of attention is getting us more towards something that's like yoga in its wholeness. So we'll be talking now about the 8 limbs of yoga. And so this is the practice that turns these postures that we do into a contemplative lifestyle, or a personal, devoted, spiritual practice. And again, I'm not going to be saying the Sanskrit names. I'm going to be giving you the essence of them so that you can see how they apply to your life and how they might be relevant to you, so that you can dive deeper into what area of interest you have. So I'll talk about the 8 limbs in 2 ways at once. And this is something that you'll have to get used to if you're practicing yoga, that it's a yes and both kind of a thing. So the 8 limbs are both a process and a goal. So they are the moment of grace and revelation, what you look like, how you be when grace descends, or a self-realization happens. And they're also a process that you work through so that maybe grace happens and revelation is available. So these are a snapshot of moments that are extraordinary, but I don't want them to be something that you can't relate to as something that you've experienced, because I think that you have. And so as we talk about them, see if you can place or find a moment in your life that was full of awe. So much so that you were totally absorbed in that moment, that there was nothing outside of what was happening right then. So that could happen in a couple of situations. It could happen when you see something of immense beauty, or you've been granted forgiveness, or you've granted someone else forgiveness. Some moment where there's nothing outside of what's happening in that present moment. Maybe the first time you kissed the love of your life. Something that there's no other thing but that. Full absorption. So this is that moment. And we'll sort of zoom into each one of them to see what that moment looks like and what the process to get to a life that's full of more of those moments could look like. So the first of the 8 limbs is called yama, and it's a vow. It's called the Great Vow. And so this is where the contemplative life begins, and it's a way of thinking about how you interact with the world around you. So it's an outer vow. It's how you are with others. And the first one is ahimsa, and I like to translate that as sensitivity or gentleness. It's also translated as nonviolence, but that is hard to do. So sensitive towards your actions in the world. Feeling the effects, letting the world touch you is the first rule of the first thing of what it means to be a yogi. So sensitive, no longer bad, good. No longer what causes you trouble, now it's your superpower. So in the moment of grace, you're sensitive, you're feeling everything that's happening and you're letting it touch you. The next is honest. So it's sometimes translated as truthfulness, but truthfulness also hard to do. Easier to start with just being honest about what's real for you and what's going on. So in the moment of grace, you're sensitive and you're honest. And you're also generous. So there's an openness and a generousness in this moment of grace. And the last one is sometimes translated as celibacy, but okay. It's also better thought of, I think, as prudence or resourcefulness. So realizing that you only have a certain amount of energy, and that energy can, if dispersed in all directions, whether sexually or non-sexually, however you want to think of it, is going to take away the energy that you have for this moment of grace. So this containment of your energy and this resourcefulness with your own energy is something of what you're like at the moment that grace touches you. So you're sensitive, you're honest, you're open, you're generous, and you're resourceful. Yama. The next of the 8 limbs is niyama, and that is a vow that's deep within. This is the way that you behave for yourself that no one knows about. You don't go around, preaching your niyama. You have it be something that works on you deep within, that maybe other people don't even know that you're doing it. And that looks like being committed and content. Hard. Both of those are hard to do. So staying with it with a consistency and coming back to it again and again and again, and contentment with whatever happens from that. So there's a vow when you're a yogi to be committed and content. So not to strive for the fruits of the practice, but to be content in the action of doing it, and to stay with that for a long period of time. And then the last 3 niyamas give us a picture of, even more so, the type of action and the way that you're taking action when you're trying to take action like a yogi. And that is that you burn, or that you have this quality of tapas, or you're building this heat to know who you are, to know the true nature of the self, and surrendered to a power that's higher than you. So my teacher calls this the triple force of intelligence, which I think sounds so cool, right? And that is the way that we are when we're wanting our practice to inform us about what's real. And so we burn to know the true nature of the self, and we surrender to something that's higher than us. And so a lot of times we don't hear about the God in yoga, but there is a God in yoga, and we are in a position of surrender to that higher power. There's lots of ways to get to a higher power, or to a relationship with a higher power, and I pray that you find one because it's how we get into right relationship with all things, to know that it's not all up to us, that there is some sort of way of it, and we can get inside of that way, but we're not in control of how things go. So when we have this vow deep within to be committed and content, and to burn to know who we are and surrender to God. And that is a niyama, the second limb. So these 10 things are really what shape a contemplative life, a contemplative lifestyle, because your relations will give you feedback about how you may or may not be doing those things, right? And your speech will give you feedback to if you're really holding that vow that you've made deep within to be committed and content, and to do this work to know your own self, not to become the greatest advisor to all other people. And so that's how you behave in the moment of grace and when grace descends. And then the next limb is kind of something that we tend to think of as the totality of yoga because of how it's presented. That's asana, or posture practice, or the stuff that we do in the studios. And the purpose of that is so that you're stable and comfortable in posture. So you can practice all of the postures that you need to, so that you become stable and comfortable in posture, because really this is the posture that matters, the one that can lean in and be open and stay open even when being vulnerable feels threatening, like life and death. So the stability in your body is so that you can stay open to relating and stay inside of your yama and your niyama. And so stable and comfortable in posture able to make an effortless effort and hold stillness is what the goal of posture practice is. And so, again, not getting caught up in form of what the poses look like is how you'll actually be able to get to the juice that's available for you inside of posture practice. The next limb is pranayama, sometimes talked about as breath work or breath control. I don't know. But really, it's about life force awareness. It's starting to become aware of where your energy is going, the things that steal your breath in a good way, in a bad way, and being able to decide where you want to put your energy. So it's no longer up and out, distracted by whatever squirrel comes by. Now you've yama'd your prana, or you've taken an inventory of where your life force is going, and you're only giving your energy and attention to the things that support your deeper desires. In the case of a yoga practice, that's self-transformation and perceiving the world in a new and different way, and feeling more free and accepting of who you are and who other people are and what reality is. So we yama our prana so that we can direct our energy towards our practice. And in our cases, that's often being able to also do the next limb, and that's pratyahara, or sense withdrawal. We touched on that a little bit today, where I said smell and taste and see and touch and hear, and direct that all towards your own self and your own body and your own experience. Because the senses don't only go outward to attend to everybody else, they go inward to know thyself, which is the thing we're doing in yoga. So pratyahara, or sense withdrawal. And then the next limb is concentration. And that's about being able to withdraw the senses and then hold your attention on a single thing for a long period of time. You may notice the tendency to get distracted, period, right? And life will give you, plenty of things to be distracted by. But in the case of our yoga practice, we're trying to cultivate an ability to concentrate. And that happens through what we do on our mats, but that can also happen at any time in the way that I've directed your attention now. Concentrate on your own heart, feel your own self, and then once you're really good at that, see if you can hold a concentration that's a split attention. That's now holding your attention on me also, and being able to stabilize that. Some good ways to practice that are holding your eyes on a single point of focus, or if you want to up the ante, holding your eyes on a flame as a single point of focus, or meditative concentration. The next limb is meditation itself. So we have to learn to concentrate before we can learn to meditate. And a practice of concentration is not a practice of meditation. In the tradition that I studied, and one of the things that I like to carry with me as a part of my lineage, which is another part of yoga, which is the way that the teachings have been passed down from teacher to student over thousands of years to get to you. So in the lineage that I studied, the meditative focus is the heart and sacred sound, or mantra japa, at the heart. So coming into contact with your own lotus of the heart, or your own cave of the heart, your inner life, and then practicing repetitions of sacred sound inside of that inner sanctuary as meditation. And then the last limb is absorption, or samadhi. And that's that experience that I mentioned, that moment where grace happens and you're fully in it. And so those limbs that I just breezed over can be taken and broken out, and one thing could be practiced and focused on, or the whole thing can be a part of your whole practice and you're doing them all at once, or it could happen now. Because why not now? Right? That you could choose to be sensitive, honest, open, generous, and resourceful, committed and content, burning to know yourself and surrendered, while staying stable and comfortable in posture, aware of where your life force energy is going, withdrawing your senses into the heart, concentrating on the heart, holding a meditative focus of sacred sound like maybe Om at the heart, and staying fully absorbed in that experience at all time. Why not now, and why not you? Seems better than anxiety and depression and fear and greed and all of the other things that we can give our energy to. And so yoga is about living a conscious life that's trying to cultivate these qualities in your experience. And when that moment happens and grace touches you, you take on a spontaneous posture. It's no longer warrior 3. You're not like, oh, samadhi, warrior 3, everyone, right? It's samadhi. It's the posture that's however you be, the one that's most you, that's full expression of what it is that you're doing in that moment. And so it blends into your whole life and becomes sort of how you are in a natural way when you make this effort to consciously practice it. And how do we practice it? Gently and consistently for a long period of time. How long is a long period of time? I can't tell you that. Long enough for it to happen. So stay committed and content and get interested in your own self in a different way. It can be distracting that we think we need to learn all about yoga to be a yogi, or that we need to be doing things on this rectangular mat for an hour a day to be a good yogi. But those aren't the things that make a good yogi. The things that make a yogi are this way of seeing and this way of trying to look at your life and trying to contemplate what it might be like to put these things inside of your life. They'll never become real to you, and you'll never have them memorized like I have them memorized until you put them in your life and try to live them. And so a good first step is to memorize them and to know what you might be committing to, right? In a larger sense. And then see if when you're practicing your postures at the studio on your mat, can you have those qualities to your action? And try it in that one particular focused time, and then see how it expands into your life. And follow which things interest you. If you're interested in posture practice, do it. Do it all the way. If you're interested in meditation, do it. Do it all the way. Whichever thing that you're interested about yoga, do it and do it fully, and it will lead to the next thing that's for you. And the same thing with teachers. If you have somebody that you can see, man, they seem to be doing better than me. They seem to be more okay-ish. That seems nice. Then listen and try to follow those instructions until it's like, I feel like there's something else that I need. And trust that the next teacher will come and the next information will come. And this is again why I wanted to point to lineage, because I like to think of my, whatever it is that I'm teaching is just the littlest thing that's peeking out of the surface for you to see and be like, what's that? Because underneath the surface is where all the juice is. And that connection to lineage is what will get you to all of that vast depth of yoga. Because I didn't make this stuff up, right? I'm not just giving you something I heard and then modified to make my own. This is the yoga tradition as I've understood it through practice. And so when you connect into that through me, then there's all of these texts and all of these teachers that you're also connecting in with, so that it can become something that surrounds you, not something that you're dependent on your teacher for, but something that you access through them. So my lineage has to do with where I learned and who I studied from and how I learned particular techniques and things like that. But it ultimately, it doesn't matter which lineage you connect into. If you really have a deep connection to what the goal is, it can take shape within you and your life in a way that's more like making something unique through weaving. So you found this little piece that touched you here, and this little piece that touched you here, and this little piece that touched you here, And in your own life, you start to weave with them, and they gain strength and stability through your own experience with them. And so it's less like you have to take on any kind of belief, and more like you have to suspend your disbelief long enough to try it and find out for yourself. And that's what I love about yoga. It's one step at a time in a gentle way, and fuck around and find out for yourself. Don't take my word for it. And you'll never know until you really give yourself to it in a way that is unique. It's not being imposed on, but really allowing a blossoming to happen from the inside through where you place your attention. Okay. We have 10 minutes for Q&A. Is that right? No, I'm 5 minutes over.
Time is hard when you're in it. I'm kind of 10 minutes.
Oh, no. Well, do we have any questions for in person?